I don't know how in depth everybody wants me to go on bowl turning because I could go pretty deep down the rabbit hole as far as the direction that the grain goes and where the heart of the tree is and how the wood will move and things like that. Or I can just start turning, and if you guys have any questions, just holler them out and I'll sort of explain what I'm doing. So I started off, I should have showed you guys this. This is on a what they call a screw chuck. So it's basically a big screw that hooks into the jaws of my chuck. And that's what transfers the power from the lathe to the bowl you're turning. So it's just right inside there. Just almost just a regular screw, nothing special. Kind of a little bit larger teeth on it. I do. It depends on the size of the bowl. Like a bowl this size, you can get a screw chuck no problem. And it's nice because you don't have to have the tailstock up there for finishing the bottom, which you can do that with a screw chuck or with a faceplate also. But I don't know, they're just kind of bigger, bulkier. If it's a large bowl though, that's definitely the safest way. So I'll put this is called the tool rest, put the tool rest up. Always spin the piece before you turn the lathe on, because if it's too close, you're going to bash into it, and it's not going to be very fun. Personal experience. No. Only once. And with that screw chuck, this is called the tailstock here. It's not always really necessary, but it's just nice to have a little bit extra protection. Fire it up and see how out around this is. Yeah. I like to crank it up until it kind of starts to dance. This is a pretty well balanced. I like to turn pretty fast too. The faster you can turn, the smoother the cuts you get. I typically always wear a face shield. I would suggest everybody always wears a face shield because safety glasses, they're not going to protect you, but yeah, but it's hard for me to talk. Yeah, exactly. So this is a nice, stable piece of wood. There's no cracks at all. So I'm not concerned that it's going to, bust apart or anything like that. So I'll just use these for now. This is Sisu from Kimball. So I'm going to start. When you start your cuts, you want the cutting edge of your tool to be basically right on the center of the piece. I'm going to crank it up. You keep your tool about a 45-degree angle. You don't want it to be fully open. That's going to be way too aggressive of a cut, and you're likely to get a catch. So you kind of about a 45-degree angle. I put a thumb on top of the tool. I like to take my finger under the tool rest and just guide it along. You just take thin cuts at first. You guys might get pelted over there. And when I'm cutting, I'm watching the profile. You can't really tell what you're doing when you're looking at the cut, but if you look at that top profile, you can see how much you're taking off. You'll know if you've got a little bit, if you're taking too big of a bite. And as you take stuff off, you want to stop the lathe, scoot the tool rest a little bit further closer to the piece. Always spin it and make sure you're not going to hit it. Because the further back the tool rest is, the more leverage it's going to have as it's cutting. So you're going to be more likely to get a catch. I like to have always 3 positions on the tool. I hold it up here, grip it here, and then keep it into my body. And you never want to kind of, you don't want to move your tool like this. You have a lot less control, so you're almost kind of just moving your whole body as you're making cuts. This is hard stuff. So there, we got it pretty well, nice and round. So I'm going to switch my tool rest, change positions, and bring it here on the bottom. And now I'm going to start working on this part that's all kind of wonky. So this is called a draw cut. You just put your tool right on and draw it back. You're cutting with the side of the tool, which is called the wing, and it's almost 90 degrees. Not quite 90, just a little bit back from it. So you're cutting with just this edge, and the wood is missing the top one. You don't want it fully scraping, just about, I don't know, that much degrees. I'll stop it, check it, move my tool rest in a little bit. You can still hear it. It's kind of not quite flat, but it's getting really close. Mainly the goal is we want to get it nice and flat here, so that way I can put a tenon on it and then flip it around after I've shaped the outside and start hollowing it out. Plus it helps balance it so you can crank up the speed a little bit too. Yeah, there we go. I'll crank it up a little bit. See, I went to flip my face shield down. Yeah, the faster you can spin it, the smoother your cuts will be. That's pretty good. Now, since we're on that screw chuck, I'm going to back my tailstock off and take care of this little nub really quick. Yeah, this is a 5/8 bowl gouge with a long grind or Irish grind or Ellsworth grind. It's all the same thing. Fingernail grind. So we got it flat. The next step is going to be to put a tenon on there. Before I put the screw chuck in, I measured the jaws on my chuck so I know how big to make the tenon. That's a pretty important part. If it's too big, the corners of the jaws dig in and you don't get a really good bite. Then obviously if it's too small, it's not going to bite at all. So just take your dividers, mark it on there, and then I'll take a parting tool, which is just pretty much a straight tool that you use to stick in there and make your tenon. And I give it just a little bit of a dovetail shape to match the jaws, and that makes it a lot tighter in the jaws with that dovetail on there. We'll go maybe 1/4 of an inch. I'll switch back to my bowl gouge and waste away all this material so I can expose that tenon. All I'm doing right there is just getting rid of that wood so I can expose the tenon. I'll switch to a little detail gouge. You don't need all these tools. You can do it with just a bowl gouge and a parting tool. But the more you do it, the more stuff you want to buy. So then you got to justify having it, so you use it. Now that I've got my tenon, I can start working on the shape of the bowl. There's a few different ways that you can do it. One good way that'll help you get a nice curve. I like to, have a pretty much nice flowing curve from the rim down to where the tenon is. So you can take, I'll just use a marker. Or a pencil. Here's a pencil. See, when I don't have my face shield, I'm constantly spitting wood chips out. You just kind of eyeball this, halfway between there. Mark a line halfway between here. Mark a line. This is to help you establish a nice shape to the bowl. And so now that you've got these two lines, you basically just connect them. You'll take a gouge and just start wasting away. And so then you'll have the 3 facets. Then you go again, split them in half again, split them in half again, and eventually you've got a nice, to the point where you can just slowly blend that curve in there. The more you turn, the more kind of intuitive it gets. I don't do this too often, but it's a good process to show people, especially if you're not real familiar with turning. So then, again, you could take that, split it, and you'll get yourself a nice curve. But I haven't been doing that anymore. I've just sort of been kind of going by feel. tastes delicious, but it probably make good charcoal. Thank you. So right now I'm kind of using the wing of the tool to sort of soften out all the high spots and the lumps to where I can get to a point where I've got a nice smooth flowing curve. Right now, a little bit high right there, maybe a little, so I could take just a bit more off. Anybody have any questions about anything, or? Very carefully. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is a nice piece of wood. Yeah, I'm always constantly looking at the profile, and sometimes I'll even, as I'm scraping wood away, your fingers are far more perceptive than your eyes are too. So you can feel the lumps, and then just ever so slightly rest the tool against the wood and sort of work them away. I wouldn't suggest doing that if you're just starting out, but it takes just some practice, and it'll help you really dial in the curves. Yeah, pretty good. I don't want to spend too long. It could take all day trying to get it perfect, but sandpaper will help a lot too. So I'll switch to that real quick. That's the outside. We're good to go. I'm going to sand it. I'm going to put a finish on there, and we'll flip it around and hollow it out.
So those, amongst the turners, is sandpaper like looked down upon? Like I can, with my tool, I can make it finer?
Well, that's ultimately the goal. It's a pretty good. I got a pretty good finish. This is really nice wood too. So I'll probably start with 150. But yeah, that's always the goal. Is if you can get it off the tool to where it's very minimal sanding, then you're good. I gotta figure out which end this starts at. It's beeswax and mineral oil. Yeah. I use it on a lot of stuff. It's a really good food safe finish. And then also I use it before I put the wood onto the screw drive, because sometimes it'll seize up on there if you don't have any kind of lube in there. Yeah. It's like 50-50. I've heard that, yeah. I like to sand with a little sponge too. So it kind of gets hot. If you're using your fingers, you'll burn your fingers real quick. Yeah. Get rid of your fingerprints real fast too. Ty's garage floors. Yeah. Maybe so. That'd be alright. even some wood chips. Yeah, just stay there. Yeah, absolutely. I usually sand a little bit slower, and then I like to turn as fast as safely possible, just because of the your tool will cut a lot better the faster it's going. 600. The easiest wood I've ever turned is linden wood. That's I actually got it from Ty. This is a piece of linden burl, but that what was that blue spruce or something? That was probably pretty easy too. Yeah, let's fire that thing up. Yeah, I got a little bit of tear out on the end grain, but that's all right. Yeah, that will actually. I'd need to cut it. Sanding in reverse definitely helps, but it's a little deeper than sandpaper wants to take out. Get some shine juice. Yeah. I think Ty got it in Idaho, right? I had never really heard of it until I got a couple pieces from Ty. Yeah, it cuts like butter, and it was just finishes beautifully. This is shine juice. Yeah, it's 1/3 shellac, 1/3 boiled linseed oil, and 1/3 denatured alcohol. Yep. You can kind of fine tune it. If you want it shinier, you put a little bit more shellac in there, a little less of the oil. But 1/3. No, it's it's OB's shine juice. Some guy named OB made it up a long time ago, I guess. But it's one of the best finishes I've ever found. Super easy to mix up. No, I won't put beeswax on this one. You could put wax over it though. Yeah, well, not always. It depends. If the wood's really wet and it's like you can't sand it because it'll just gum up your sandpaper, then I'll wait. But if it's something like this that's more dry, I'll just uh, turn it, sand it, finish it, flip it around. And crank it up and just put little light coats. Just build up a nice finish. Yep. That's pretty much it for the outside. I'll flip it around and start hollowing it out. The wood, Sisu. Or yeah. I think it's at least a 20 inch. I think is what, or might be 22. Be the swing on it. I think about 17 is the biggest I've gone. I had successfully. I had yeah, I had about a 19 or 20 inch ash bowl on there, and it exploded. Yeah. Yeah, so the jaws just clamp down onto it.
And how was it attached before? Was it screwed in?
Yeah, through this screw right here, just down into the center.
Wow.
And at this point, now that it's clamped on, I don't really need my tool stock anymore, or my tail stock, so I take it off. Just kind of get it out of the way. Then the next step is just flatten off the top, and I do the same draw cut that I did on the backside of it when I was flattening it out to put the tenon on there. I'm mainly concerned about getting the rim flat, because this stuff in the middle is all going to get hollowed out anyways. And I always like to put, when I get to the rim, I like to put either kind of a little bead on it or have it angle in, just something to sort of draw your fingers in rather than just dead flat. Just gives a piece a little bit more appeal when you pick it up. And for this part, I just kind of start in the middle, sort of scoop it out. Always you have your tool about a 45-degree angle. Again, you never want it opened up. And I'm a little low on the tool rest. Yeah, here it comes. See if I can aim it a little. I just kind of work my way back. I always like to leave a little bit of a cone in the center because it sort of stabilizes everything. I just do it in stages, about as far down as you can go. Then you go back to the middle, take a little bit away. And the closer I get to the edge, the more I want to think about how thick I want to make the wall on this. You don't want to go, I don't know. I don't like them super thin because they just feel like nothing. I like to have, a little bit of a weight to them. So I'll go, yeah, for the most part. I can't guarantee that. So I'm going to put that little bit of an angle leading down in. And then when I go to establish the final wall thickness, I always look at the outside of the bowl and try to match the profile of the bowl to the angle of the bevel on the tool. So that way, when you go in, you can keep, if you establish that, you can keep a nice even wall thickness all the way down. You're just sliding across that bevel and sort of just scooping the wood out. So I'll stop now and I'll check my wall thickness. Feels, oh yeah, may have several lampshades. Yep, for sure. Now that I'm getting kind of quite a bit of overhang, so now I want to reposition my tool rest a little bit and try to alleviate some of that, just so it's, again, there's not too much leverage on the tool. Still a little bit thick. Yeah, this is nice stuff, yeah. Now that I'm getting down into the bottom too, I'm going to switch tools to a bottom finisher bowl gouge, which has a more blunt angle on it, so you can kind of get around the curves better. And it also, the closer you get down in the middle, the more you end up cutting. You know, it's a lot of end grain and weird grain, so this handles it better than the other tool does and gives you a cleaner cut. This is a bottom finisher bowl gouge, or a bowl gouge with a traditional grind versus the Irish grind or the Ellsworth grind. I'm making a mess here, huh? Right. Sorry, Ty. I'm messing up your shop. Yeah. Oh, darn, I'm heading home tomorrow, too. So I'm going to take this time to make sure my tenon's tight, too. That's always kind of a good practice to get into, is stop every once in a while and make sure it hasn't loosened up on you. Yeah, it's not fun. If the wood is really green, then it will just compresses the fibers. But if it's dry, it will a little bit, but not a whole lot. But with greenwood, it's especially important to stop pretty frequently and check it and make sure that it hasn't compressed the fibers too much. Let's see. About right there, yeah. 1830. Yeah, it really is. I don't pay too close of attention to the RPMs. My tool rest is just a little high. 13% moisture. I don't know. It's perfect. It's actually like hollowing it out is perfect. It's cutting beautifully. It probably won't. This stuff is super stable. That bowl that all the raffle tickets are in, it's the same stuff. I turned it for tie, and it didn't move a bit. But yeah, definitely. If it was, it just depends a lot on the kind of wood, whether or not it moves. Mesquite is another really super stable one. The more dense the wood, the less it moves. Elm is one that I turn kind of a lot in Vegas, and that stuff just warps and twists and moves like crazy. I don't like to. I like to go kind of thin and even and just let it move. Like I like to turn it as green as possible and just see. I've had bowls that were totally round, and then a couple days later, it's taco shaped. They're super cool, and there's no cracks or anything in them. Yeah, as long as you orient the as long as the top of the bowl is where the center of the tree was, because it kind of wants to twist up on itself. So it'll just move, and it typically won't crack. A little bit more. Yeah, that's going to be just about it. Yeah, we'll probably call that good. And I'll just sand the inside. A little bit of a lump right there in the center. Yeah, that'll do it. Oh my. And that's it. I started with 150. 600. It's like yeah.
Just like a little loop.
Yeah, it's you can buy it like a roll of Velcro from Harbor Freight. Yeah, that would be good. Without some sandpaper. I've got this.
I see those pictures of those bolts in the road. Is that just the nature of the grain just can't take the RPMs? And
It can be. There's a lot of different factors to it. I had one. It was a piece of wormy ash, and it was. I didn't know before I started turning it just exactly how unstable and bad the wood was. It was like more worm castings and holes than it was wood, and so at lower RPMs it was fine. But I tried to crank it up a little too much. I didn't have it, wasn't touching it with the tool, was nowhere near it. Turned it up, and all of a sudden, just boom! The whole thing just let go and exploded. My wife came running out. Are you okay? No, luckily, yeah. I was probably like, I was, probably way over here grabbing something, and all of a sudden it just exploded. Put a finish on it, and we're done. Yeah, I find that, and even paper towels, I'm like a paper towel snob, kind of. The blue shop towels are way too absorbent, and so they hold on to the finish, and it doesn't, it won't apply it well. It's like constantly wet. So with the shellac, you want to be able to build up heat. You kind of burnish the shellac and dry it. So the white paper towels, Bounty Selecta size, if you're interested, seem to be my preferred. I don't like Costco ones because they don't have, you can't pull off the smaller sheets. Yeah, so it's more wasteful. But the Costco ones do work, like as far as absorbency and stuff goes. But I like the Selecta size because I don't need too much. Yeah, this wood is just gorgeous stuff. Sisu or East Indian rosewood.
treat my backyard.
Nice. Yeah. See, I even brought my own paper towels just in case. And with this stuff, I just put real light coats on, just little by little, spread it out. Use kind of a good amount of pressure, and it builds up heat, helps to dry it and shine it up. That's about it. There's a bowl. Yep. I'll if anybody's interested, I'll turn it around and take that foot off too. Decent. I would say a decent amount. Got a half box of Lucky Charms in there, I'll bet you. Yeah. I will use what's called a jam chuck. And that's just a piece of wood that I think it's poplar that I glued together, or pine or something. Just scrap pieces that I glued up so I could turn this is a nice contour. Yep, it's all done. One more little step. There's lots of different methods you can use to take the tailstock off. I'm in the process of building up a vacuum chuck. So it actually uses a vacuum pump. It's got a, it pretty much just sucks the wood on there. But yeah, it's got a piece that goes threads all the way through the lathe. You hook your vacuum line onto the back end of it, and it just sucks the bowl right on there. I'm on video too. I'm a sound effects kind of guy, you know. Really helps illustrate my story. For the inside of this, I use these silicone pot holders. They're nice and soft. They don't mar up the surface. And they're like $1 from the dollar store. I found them at the dollar store, and I bought a dumb amount of pot holders, like 30 of them. I just cleared them off the shelf because sometimes they'll break, and that's the cheapest I'd ever seen them. They kind of looked at me funny when I was buying them. Yeah, you don't get it. I was gonna give it to Kimball since you brought the wood. Well, I put another bowl in the raffle too. There's tons of other ones if you guys are interested. There's lots of bowls you can check out too that I got back here. It depends on the size. I have kind of like a little formula. It's diameter times the height times like 3, and it gives me kind of a good jumping off starting point for selling something. Not yet. I don't ever have time to work on my website. I definitely have you can go check out some stuff on there, but I don't have a shop really yet. Oh, a lot. Yeah, you gotta be now. I gotta switch to something a little bit smaller to kind of get in there.
I've seen some of the tools where they have like a carbide kit.
Yeah.
Try those.
I don't really use them too often. They don't give you as clean of a cut. You're pretty much scraping the wood away rather than severing the fibers. So it doesn't give you. They work great and they're really good for. They're super user friendly, especially if you're just getting into it. Like there's kind of a big learning curve on tools like this, but the carbide tools are a lot easier to. You can pick it up and turn a bolt the same day. You don't have to really worry too much about catches like you do with some of these if you're not holding it in the proper position. Right. You just sit there flat. What was that?
See the bend's gonna start turning.
Everybody, everybody should start turning. I don't want to go too crazy with it, or that'll happen. But we're good. That's one of the disadvantages to a jam chuck. That's why I want a vacuum chuck. It's always constantly held on there, so you just pull the tool stock away at the right minute. But yeah, it's good. A little sanding, we'll be good to go. I need to find some kind of sanding utensil. Do you got any hook and loop or something to sand this with? Yeah, I'll just run it through. But yeah, it's got a little nub that I got to sand off, but that's it. Once you get it flattened off, it'll be nice stable. Thank you.